The match struck like a gunshot in the cavernous living room of the Upper East Side brownstone, its flame dancing hungrily over the crisp edges of the check, $38 million, inked in black and white finality. "This poison ends with me," my father growled, his voice a gravelly thunder that echoed off the mahogany walls, as he tossed the paper into the marble fireplace and watched it curl into ash. Oblivious to the sun standing frozen in the doorway, my world igniting alongside it. In that instant, as the smoke curled like a noose around his silver temples, I realized the fortune he'd just torched wasn't money at all. It was the last tether to the man I'd never truly known, and the love I'd buried deeper than any grave. Sebastian Hale had always been the invisible son, the one who blended into the herringbone floors of our family estate like a shadow at dusk. At 27, I was a ghost in my own life, a junior editor at a midtown publishing house, scraping by on freelance gigs and the occasional advance from novels that no one read. Dad, Victor Hale, the steel magnate who'd clawed his way from Pittsburgh mills to Manhattan boardrooms, saw me as the soft underbelly of his empire, the kid who'd traded Wall Street suits for dog-eared paperbacks and late-night confessions in dimly lit bars. He never said it outright, but his silences screamed it. "You're not like me. Never will be." That night in June, the air hung thick with the scent of rain-soaked geraniums from the window boxes outside. I'd come home early from a disastrous date, another ghosting from a guy who'd sworn he was open-minded, until my hand lingered too long on his thigh under the table at some overpriced Soho bistro. The brownstone was supposed to be empty. Dad was at one of his endless galas, schmoozing senators over Scotch neat. But as I shrugged off my jacket in the foyer, the flicker of firelight pulled me toward the parlor like a moth to a pyre. I watched him from the shadows, my heart thudding against my ribs. Victor Hale, at 68, was still a colossus, broad-shouldered in his tailored Brooks Brothers shirt, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms corded like rebar. His face, weathered by decades of mergers and hostile takeovers, twisted in a grimace I'd never seen, not regret, exactly, but something fiercer, like a wolf baring teeth at its own reflection. The check fluttered in his grip, the bank's watermark gleaming under the chandelier's glow. "Bastard thought he could buy me off," he muttered to the empty room, voice laced with venom. "After all these years. Fuck your guilt money." The match hit, and the paper ignited with a whoosh that made me flinch. Flames licked upward, devouring the numbers, the signatures, the promise of a legacy I'd assumed was mine by blood. 38 million. It was the kind of sum that bought penthouses in Tribeca, vineyards in Napa, or a quiet escape from the city's relentless grind. But Dad didn't blink. He prodded the ashes with a poker, grinding them to dust, as if erasing a stain from his soul. "Dad," my voice cracked like thin ice, barely audible over the crackle. He whipped around, eyes wild, the poker clattering to the hearth. "Jesus Christ. What the hell are you doing here?" He straightened, smoothing his shirt like armor, but the flush creeping up his neck betrayed him. I stepped into the light, my sneakers silent on the Persian rug. "That was..." "What?" "Our ticket out? The inheritance from Grandpa." Grandpa Elias had died 6 months back. A quiet fade in his sleep at the family compound upstate. The old man had been the silent patriarch, doling out wisdom in gruff one-liners over Thanksgiving turkey, but his will had been a bombshell, everything to Dad, with a personal bequest we'd all whispered about but never seen. Turns out, was this cold and anonymous, funneled through some offshore account. Victor's jaw tightened, a muscle ticking like a bomb. It wasn't ours. Not really. He turned away, pouring a tumbler of Macallan from the sideboard, the amber liquid sloshing like blood. Your grandfather. He owed someone. Debts from way back. This was hush money. Nothing more. Hush money. I left. Bitter and sharp. The sound foreign in my throat. For what? The steel mill scandals? The 80s bribes? I'd grown up on those stories, the ruthless climbs, the enemies buried under NDAs. But this felt different. Personal. Like a knife twist in the gut. He downed the scotch in one gulp, slamming the glass down. Vivid? Some things stay buried. But I couldn't. Not when the ashes still smoldered, mocking me. Not when my own life was a series of half-truths, the closet I'd cracked open at 22. The parade of hookups that left me emptier than before. The novels I wrote in secret about men who loved fiercely and without apology. Dad had never acknowledged it, not the rainbow pin on my backpack in high school, not the pride flags I'd hung in my dorm room at Columbia. He loved me. Sure. In his gruff, provisionary way, the tuition checks, the summer shares in the Hamptons. But this, burning our future, it cracked something irrevocable. The next morning, over coffee black as his mood, I pressed him in the kitchen, sunlight slanting through the bay windows onto the granite counters. Tell me the truth. Why burn it? We could have donated it. Paid off my student loans. He stirred his mug, avoiding my eyes. Because it was tainted. Elias. He wasn't the man you think. There were secrets. Things that would have destroyed us. Destroyed you? You mean? The words slipped out, laced with the resentment I'd nursed since coming out. I'd waited for his reaction that night in the living room, post-graduation, when I'd blurted it over takeout lo mein. He'd frozen, chopsticks midway to his mouth, then nodded once. Okay. No hugs. No questions. Just okay. Like I'd announced a parking ticket. Victor's gaze sharpened, pinning me. You think this is about you? About your choices? The pause around choices stung like salt in a wound. This goes deeper. Before your mother. Back to when I was your age. Scraping by in those godforsaken mills. Pittsburgh. The word hung unspoken between us. A ghost city of rust and regret. Mom had always said Dad fled it like a bad dream, arriving in New York with nothing but a duffel and a chip on his shoulder. She'd softened him, or tried to, until the cancer took her 5 years ago, leaving us in this echoing mausoleum of a house. Tell me, I said. Softer now. Leaning across the island. I'm not a kid anymore. TXL. Long and ragged. Like deflating a lifetime. Elias wasn't just my father. He had a brother. My uncle. Harlan. The name landed like a pebble in still water, rippling out. I'd heard whispers, Harlan Hale. The black sheep. Vanished in the 70s after some scandal. Drugs? A botched deal? Dad never spoke of him. Harlan was. Everything Elias wasn't, Victor continued. Voice dropping. Wild. Brilliant. The kind of guy who could charm a room or burn it down. A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips. Gone in a blink. We were close. Him and me. Summers at the lake house in the Poconos. He'd teach me to fish. Tell stories about hitchhiking cross-country. Crashing queer bars in San Francisco before it was safe. Queer. The word jolted me. Electric. Dad had never uttered it. Not in my hearing. I gripped my mug tighter. He was gay, Victor nodded, staring into his coffee like a scrying pool. And proud of it, in a time when that got you beaten or worse. Elias hated him for it, called him a disgrace, cut him off without a dime. Harlan left anyway, built his own life out west. Made a fortune in tech. Before anyone knew what Silicon Valley was. The pieces clicked. Jagged and sharp. It was from Harlan? Yeah. Dad's laugh was hollow. Remorse money. 40 years late. Harlan died last year. It's like your mom. No kids. No wife. Just a letter with a check. For Victor. For the brother I lost. Use it to fix what I broke. But it wasn't just cash. There were files. Photos. Letters. He rubbed his temples. Weird. Stuff that would have dragged our name through the mud. Elias's hypocrisy. The fights. And me. You. My pulse thrummed. He met my eyes then. Raw and unguarded. Harlan didn't just love me like a nephew. He tried to show me who I could be. Before I buried it all to become the man Elias wanted. The air thickened. Church. I saw it then, the flicker in his stance. The way his hand trembled on the counter. Not just allyship, but something deeper. Unspoken. My father. The Titan. Carrying a secret flame. That revelation cracked the dam. Over the next weeks, as summer humidity blanketed the city, Dad and I sifted through the remnants Harlan had sent, a battered leather portfolio arriving by courier, sealed with wax like a relic. Inside, yellowed letters in Harlan's looping script, Polaroids faded to sepia, him and Dad, young and shirtless by the lake, arms slung casual but eyes locked intense. One photo gutted me, Harlan's hand on Dad's knee under a diner table, both laughing at some shared joke, the 70s neon buzzing behind them. Read this, Dad said one evening, handing me a letter over bourbon on the terrace, the skyline glittering like fool's gold. Harlan's words spilled out, Vic, you were my son, even if you never let yourself burn. Don't let father snuff you out like he did me. Live loud. Brother. Love without apology. I looked up. Throat tight. Did you? Love him? Dad's voice was a whisper against the traffic hum. Good. I was terrified. 17. In a world that'd kill you for a glance. But yet, it was there, flickering. He saw it in me before I did. The confession hung. A bridge between us. For the first time, I saw him not as the impenetrable wall, but a man who'd chosen survival over spark. And in that vulnerability, I found my own, the ache for Ethan, the barista who'd shattered me 2 months back. Ethan Riley, 25. With freckles like constellations and a laugh that warmed the chill off Brooklyn stoops. We'd met at his coffee shop in Williamsburg. Me nursing a black drip and writer's block. Him sliding a scone my way with a wink. On the house. You look like you need sugar with that storm cloud, 3 months of fire, stolen weekends in his tiny walk-up, bodies tangled in sheets that smelled of patchouli and rain, whispered futures over dim sum in Flushing. Him tracing my scars, literal from a childhood bike wreck, figurative from Dad's silences. "You're enough, Seb," he'd murmur against my neck. More than enough. Then the betrayal, a text at 2 a.m. "We need to talk." Followed by his confession over cheap Merlot in my apartment. "It's not you. It's nice. He's back in town." And the words dissolved into sobs. But the knife was in. He cheated? Twice. With the same ghost, a venture capitalist who'd promised stability Ethan craved like oxygen. "I love you. But I need more." The word echoed Dad's inheritance. The check's ashes. I threw him out, the door slamming like a guillotine. But the wound festered, turning every mirror into an accusation. Not enough. Never enough. Dad noticed. Of course. "Who's the asshole?" he grunted one night, spotting the empty wine bottles in the recycling. I spilled it then. The whole messy reel, Ethan's touch. The hollow after. Dad listened, silent, then clapped a hand on my shoulder, heavy and sure. "He doesn't deserve you. Real love? It doesn't tally scores." Harlan taught me that. The hard way. We dove deeper into the files after that. A ritual forming, evenings with takeout Thai, poring over Harlan's life like archaeologists. Turns out, the fortune wasn't just the check. Harlan had built an empire, early Apple investor, then his own startup in renewable energy, sold for billions in the 90s. But the real inheritance? The foundation, quiet and queer-led, funding shelters for LGBTQ youth in the Rust Belt cities he'd fled. Letters from grantees poured in post-mortem. "Your uncle saved my life. Gave me a bed when my folks kicked me out." And photos, not just of Dad, but Harlan with lovers, a parade of men in bell-bottoms and leather vests, arms linked defiantly at Castro Street marches. One envelope held a cassette tape, labeled for Vic Varsung. We played it on the old stereo, Springsteen's Thunder Road, crackling to life. Harlan's voiceover faint. "Remember the drive? That Chevy rust bucket. We could have gone forever." Dad wept then, shoulders shaking. The first tears I'd seen since Mom's funeral. I held him, poured at first, then fierce. Our shared silence a balm. "You could have had that life," I whispered. He pulled back, eyes red-rimmed but clear. "I chose this one. Your mom. But seeing you hurt kills me. Like losing him all over." In that moment, the city lights blurred, and I glimpsed the inheritance's truth, not dollars. But this, threads of courage woven through generations, a legacy of hidden hearts beating loud. But legacies have teeth. 2 weeks later, the conflict erupted. I'd started seeing Alex, the photographer I'd met at a book launch, tall, with a Texas drawl that melted my defenses. We clicked easy, lazy Sundays in his Bushwick studio, him snapping candids of me amid canvas stacks, me reading aloud from Harlan's letters while he sketched. "Your poetry, hail," he'd say, lips brushing my temple. Raw and real, it felt like healing, tentative shoots through cracked concrete. Until Ethan resurfaced. He showed up at the brownstone unannounced. Rain-slicked and desperate. Eyes shadowed like a man haunted. Sip. Please. I fucked up. He's gone again, back to his wife in Boston. It was a mistake. Dad answered the door. Face thunderous. The hell you want? Ethan blanched. Spotting me behind. Just. I miss you. The foyer turned battlefield. Words flew, accusations? My voice rising in a crescendo I'd bottled for months. You broke me. Ethan. For what? A ghost who strings you along. He grabbed my arm. Desperate. I love you. Let me prove it. Dad stepped in. Shoving him back, not violent, but from a wall of paternal fury. Get out. Or I call the cops. Ethan fled into the storm. But the damage lingered. That night, over a stiff nightcap, Dad cornered me. Don't let him drag you down. You're worth more. But doubt crept in. Insidious. Was I? The next day, Alex texted, Hey. Beautiful. Dinner? I stared at it. Harlan's letter open on my lap. Love isn't a ledger. It's a leap. I met Alex at a hole-in-the-wall taqueria in the East Village. The air thick with cumin and mariachi strains. He was all easy charm. Sliding a margarita my way. Rough day. I unloaded thin. The drama. La désintervention. Alex listened, then leaned in. Thumb tracing my knuckles. Sounds like family shit. But you're solid. Don't let ghosts rewrite you. His words ignited something. A spark long dimmed. We ended up back at his place. Clothes shedding like old skin. His body a map of ink and heat. For the first time since the breakup, it wasn't escape, it was arrival. Afterward, tangled in his sheets, I confessed the inheritance saga. Harlan's shadow over us all. Alex propped on an elbow. Eyes curious. Your uncle sounds like a legend. Wish I could have met him. You would have liked him, I said, tracing a phoenix on his bicep. He burned bright. No apologies. But brightness cast shadows. The high crashed midweek when the media storm hit. Some enterprising reporter at the Post had sniffed out Harlan's obit, cross-referenced with Elias's will. Headlines screamed, billionaire's secret gay brother leaves Steel Air $38 million, torched in rage? Grainy photos of Dad surfaced, young Victor at a mill protest. Arm around Harlan. The implication blatant. The calls flooded, board members demanding explanations. Old Pittsburgh rivals gloating in voicemails. Dad barricaded in his study. Phone off the hook. I found him there at dawn, staring at a wall of family portraits. Mom radiant. Me gap-toothed at 8. Elias stern. It's out, he said flatly. All of it. Not all. I knelt beside him. The good parts. Harlan's foundation, it's going public now. Donations pouring in because of the story. He snorted. Or pity. Or truth. I pulled the portfolio close. You don't have to hide anymore. The board meeting was carnage. Dad faced them down in the glass tower off Park Avenue. Me at his side for moral support, first time I'd stepped foot in his world. Suits droned about reputational risk, stock dips. The queer angle as a distraction. Victor rose. Voice steel. Distraction? Harlan was family. His money built half this company, Investments he funneled through proxies because my father wouldn't touch fairy gold. You want risk? Bury the truth. And watch it rot us from inside. Silence. Then murmurs. A vote, keep him. Restructure quietly. Victory. Bittersweet. Said. Rain lashed the streets. Alex waited under an awning, umbrella in hand. Heard it went nuclear. You okay? I nodded, pulling him close. Yeah. Feels like beginning, but betrayal's echo lingered. Ethan emailed that night, a novel's worth of regret, attachments of plane tickets to Paris, promises of reinvention. We could start over. Your dad gets it now, love wins. I deleted it, blocking the sender. Love didn't win by clawing back, it won by letting go. Summer waned. Leaves turning in Central Park. Dad and I took the train upstate to the lake house. First time since Grandpa's death. We scattered Harlan's ashes, pinched from a hidden urn in the portfolio, over the water at dusk. Springsteen humming from a portable speaker. Tulips, Dad toasted with a beer. Clinking mine. To burning bright. Back in the city, Alex and I deepened gallery openings. Road trips to the Cape. Nights where words wove tighter than limbs. He captured me in photos, half smiling in bedhead glow. Fierce under sodium lamps. My muse, he'd caption them on his feed. Unashamed. One October evening, as we strolled the High Line, string lights twinkling like stars reclaimed, Dad called. Sib. Come home. Got something. The brownstones smelled of garlic and red wine, his attempt at Mom's bolognese. On the table, not ashes, but documents. Harlan's Foundation Board, they want you. Director of Outreach. No experience needed. Heart. I blinked. Fork midway. Me. You. His grin was rare. Genuine. It's not money. It's bigger. Alex squeezed my hand under the table, eyes shining. Later, he whispered. Proud of you. Poet. The inheritance unfolded, not a check, but a constellation. Dad's thawing heart. Alex's steady anchor. Harlan's defiant light guiding me home. In America's sprawl. From rust to rainbow. We learned legacy wasn't forged in boardrooms or burned in fireplaces. It lived in the quiet admissions. The hands held against the world. The loves that outshone any sum. And in that, we burned brighter than ever. The foundation gig started like a blind date with destiny, awkward, exhilarating, laced with the fear of fumbling lines. Housed in a converted warehouse in Chelsea, the Harlan Hale Legacy Fund buzzed with energy I'd only glimpsed in protest footage, young activists in faded tees. Plotting fundraisers over cold brew, caseworkers on speakerphone. Voices urgent with hope. My office overlooked the Hudson, a sliver of river steel gray under November skies. And every morning, I'd pin a new Polaroid from Harlan's stash to the corkboard, him mid-laugh, arm around a lover in a 78 Dyke March banner. Dad dropped by unannounced that first week, bearing a care package of Pittsburgh Pyragus, don't starve on kale smoothies, kid, and a gruff, don't fuck this up, but his eyes, when he scanned the space, held something softer, right? Maybe. Or the echo of what if. You're settling, I said, as we walked the halls, past murals of queer icons spray-painted vibrant. He shrugged. Feels right. like paying forward what he gave me. We paused at a community room, where a teen support group huddled, kids with fresh tattoos and fresher scars, sharing stories in a circle. One boy, maybe 16, with blue-dyed hair and a stutter, caught my dad. He said if I didn't stop being like this, he'd burn my stuff. Everything. The circle tensed, then exhaled as a counselor nodded. Dad shifted beside me, face paling. I touched his arm, subtle, firming. Later, in the car back to the Upper East Side, he broke the silence. That kid. He sounded like me. Harlan pulling me aside after a mill party, saying, "Beak, you don't have to play straight to survive. Tell me more," I urged, the city blurring past. It was becoming our thing, these confessions, pieced out like puzzle edges, revealing the full ache. He did. Haltingly. Harlan's first kiss, stolen behind a steel press, tasting of motor oil and rebellion. The fights with Elias, fists clenched over dinner tables. The night Harlan left, packing a rucksack at midnight, Dad begging him to stay. I watched his taillights fade down that dirt road. Thought I'd die from it. And the check, I pressed, though I knew the crux. Harlan's way of saying sorry. For leaving. For not fighting harder to pull me out. Dad's grip tightened on the wheel. But burning it? That was me saying, I choose you now. Not the money. Not the secrets. Tears pricked my eyes, unmanly. Maybe. In a town that prized stoicism. But fuck it. This was our America, raw. Redemptive. Love you, Dad. He cleared his throat. Yeah. Ditto. Alex thrived in the chaos of my new rhythm. He shot a series for the foundation, portraits of survivors, half-body like my own imagined frame, faces alight with resilience, eyes holding storms weathered. One evening, unveiling the exhibit in a Soho loft, he dedicated it to me on stage, voice steady, to Sebastian Hale, who taught me inheritance isn't blood, it's the stories we carry forward. The crowd, mix of glitterati and grassroots, applauded. But it was his gaze, locked on mine across the room, that undid me. Later, champagne Buzz Light. We slipped into a coat-room alcove, his mouth hot on mine, hands mapping familiar terrain. You're changing the world, babe, he breathed. And me along with it. But change courts conflict, and ours brewed subtle. Ethan's ghost lingered, not in calls, but in doubts. Alex's ex, a sculptor named Riley, started orbiting, casual catch-ups that stretched into late nights. Texts I glimpsed on his phone, miss our collab's winky face. I brushed it off at first, Alex was transparent, deleting threads with a shrug. Ancient history. You're mine now. The seed rooted. December hit with a vengeance, blizzards blanketing the parks. Holiday lights mocking the chill in my chest. Dad threw his annual gala. A black tie affair at the Met. Ostensibly for Hale Steel donors but laced with foundation nods. Queer performers. Rainbow centerpieces. I brought Alex. His tux tailored sharp. Arm linked mine like a shield. You clean up lethal, I teased. As we ascended the grand staircase. Flashbulbs popping. Texas twang thick. Only for you. Cowboy. Inside. The air hummed opulent, crystal clinking, gowns swirling like auroras. Dad cornered us near the Egyptian wing, scotch in hand, face flushed from toasts. Proud of you too. Arlan de approve. The words warmed, but then Riley appeared, tall, androgynous, with a buzz cut and a dress that draped like sculpture. Alex. It's been ages. The hug lingered, hand low on his back. I stiffened, but Alex pulled away smooth. Riley. Meet Sebastian. The exchange was civil, handshakes, small talk on art scenes, but Riley's eyes raked me, appraising. Heard you're the heart behind that exhibit. Bold work. Thanks. I forced a smile, but the gala soured after. Alex danced with donors, me nursing a gin at the bar, when Dad slid beside. Trouble? Just echoes. He nodded. Sage. Harlan had him too. Lovers who'd circle back, promising second acts. Broke him every time. Were you one? The question slipped. Bold. Dad's laugh was wry. I was the one who got away, the straight-laced kid who ran. But watching him hurt taught me to spot poison early. Alex found me then, pulling me to the floor for a slow sway to Ella Fitzgerald. Sorry about Riley. Old habits. It's fine, I lied, chin on his shoulder. But the lie festered, a quiet betrayal blooming. Christmas Eve, we escaped to the Hamptons' share, Dad's gift. A week of salt air and solitude. The cottage perched on bluffs, waves crashing like applause. We decorated a scraggly pine with ornaments from my childhood, paper angels Mom'd cut, a tin star Harlan sent once. Alex strung lights, humming carols off-key, while I stirred mulled wine. That night, fire crackling, he knelt by the hearth, box in hand. Not proposing, too soon. But future vibes. Inside, a keychain etched Hail Riley, a nod to our blended worlds. I left, tears hot. Idiot. Yes, we made love slow. Reverent? The ocean's roar underscoring gasps. Afterward, wrapped in wool throws, he traced my chest. Ever think about kids? Surrogacy? Adoption? Whatever. The vision hit. A family? Messy in ours. Defying the Hale's sterile legacy. Yeah. With you? Hell yes. But Dawn brought the call. From the blocked number. Voice slurred. Saw the gala pics. You're happy? Bullshit. He'll leave you like I did. For someone shinier. I hung up, hands shaking, but didn't tell Alex. Just fragile as spun glass. New Year's loomed, and with it, the high tide of drama. The foundation announced a major grant, $10M for Midwest Youth Centers. Headlines praising Hale's redemption arc. Dad basked, but privately confided, Elias's ghost is pissed. Dreams of him, yelling about family name. Fuck the name, I said. This is the real one. Alex planned a surprise. A weekend in Asheville, North Carolina, Harlan's last home. A bungalow he'd willed to the fund. We drove down in his battered Jeep, windows down, indie playlist shuffling. The house was time capsule, shag rugs, vinyl stacks, a den wall of photos, Harlan older, silverfoxed, with a partner named Theo, both beaming at a commitment ceremony pre-Obergefell. Feels holy, Alex murmured, as we toured. That night, over gumbo at a queer-owned spot, he got a call. Riley? In town for a show. Come through? For old time's sake. I overheard. Heart plummeting. Go, I said. Voice steel. If that's what you want. Just out. Hurt flashing. Sip. It's nothing. Tricks. Networking. With your hand on their back? Like the gala? The accusation hung. Alex's face hardened. Jealousy's ugly. Ethan's poison. Not mine. Ethan, you knew? The dam burst. This calls. My silence is spilling. I didn't want to burden. He stood. Chair scraping. That's bullshit. We're partners. Not tiptoeing around ghosts. He stormed out. Into the mountain chill. I chased. Rain starting. Asheville street slick. Alex. Wait. Under a street lamp. He whirled. You think I don't see it? The way you flinch when I talk to anyone hot. Like I'm him. You're not. Sobs choked me. But Riley. They want you back. And you don't trust me to say no? His voice cracked. Vulnerable. Sebastian. I chose you. Remember. We collided then. Rain-soaked embrace. Apologies murmured against wet collars. Back at the bungalow. Vi tar skid till dawn, fish unpacked. Boundaries redrawn. No more secrets, he vowed. Finger slached mine. We're building. Not burning. Renewed. We returned to New York. The city a canvas wiped clean. But fate, capricious, had one more twist. Valentine's Day. Dad hosted an intimate dinner. Alex? A handful of foundation allies. Candlelight danced on crystal. Laughter flowing easy. Then the doorbell, disheveled. Eyes wild with mania. I know about the money. The real inheritance. Harlansville, there's more. For you. If you come back. Dad rose. Thunderous. But I waved him down. How? Harlan's lawyer. Contingency. If Victor burned it, it reverts to the true heir. That's you. 50 mil. Easy. But probably desperation's forgery. But the room froze. Old wounds ripping open. Alex's hand tensed in mine, Dad's face ashen. Get out, I said. Calm as lake ice. There's no more for you here. Tunch. Babbling. But security, Dad's precaution, hauled him away. The aftermath shattered, Alex withdrawing. Doubts reignited, Dad retreating to scotch and silence. You're hiding again, I accused Alex that night. In our first real fight. Running from the mess. I'm scared, he admitted. Voice small. What if it's too much? The drama. The X's, your world swallows people. Then leap with me. I cupped his face. Or walk. But choose. He chose, fierce. With a kiss that tasted of salt and surrender. I'm in. All the way. Spring thawed the rifts. Dad and I co-authored an op-ed for the Times, From Ashes to Allies, a father's queer legacy. It went viral. Invitations flooding, TED Talks. Pride keynotes. Alex's exhibit toured nationally. Us tagging along in stolen moments. Motel trysts in Ohio. Stargazing in Texas. By summer's cusp. The true inheritance crystallized. Harlan's final letter. Tucked in the portfolio's lining. Surfasa, Bik. Seb, wherever you are, love isn't hoarded. It's given. Wild and free. Burn the checks, keep the fire. We did. Dad came out publicly at Pride. Marching arm in arm with me and Alex. Rainbow flag high. No fanfare. Just truth, a quiet roar amid the floats and cheers. And me? I proposed on the lake house dock. Harlan's ashes long scattered. Ring simple silver. Bigger than money, I said. As Alex teared up yes. In America's heartland scars and skyline dreams, we inherited not gold, but grace, the radical act of loving loud, leaving none behind. The wedding planning hit like a freight train through the calm, joyous chaos that tested every vow before we'd even spoken them. Alex wanted rustic, a barn upstate, wildflowers and fairy lights, guests in boots and sundresses. I leaned urban, picturing the rooftop of the brownstone, skyline toasts under stars. We compromised on the lake house, Pocono's pines framing a tented affair. Harlan's spirit in every detail, a playlist of 70s anthems, tables named for his travels, Castro, Fire Island, Key West. Da dove ned first. Surprising us. None of that frou for shit, he'd grumble. Then show up with a vintage Chevy for the getaway car. Polished to chrome gleam. Harlan approve. His coming out had rippled wide, Hale Steel's diversity hires spiked. Board meetings now started with allyship check-ins. But privately, he leaned on us, therapy sessions twice weekly, unpacking the Harlan knot with a shrink who specialized in late bloomers. You're glowing, I told him one June afternoon, as we taste-tested caterers, smoked brisket and heirloom salads on the terrace. He chuckled, wiping sauce from his chin. Feels like shedding skin. Your mom. She'd be thrilled. For all of us, Mom's absence ached sharp then. A phantom at the feast. Cancer had stolen her quick. But her letters, tucked in my childhood box, resurfaced. Victor? Love our boy fierce. He's got your fire. My heart. We'd frame one for the ceremony. Her cursive a blessing. Alex's family flew in from Austin. Mom a firecracker realtor. Dad a quiet rancher who'd shaken my hand firm at our first meet. Treat him right. Son. Riley. Mercifully. Stayed exiled, Alex's boundaries held ironclad. Our trust reforged in fire's afterglow. But conflict simmers beneath bliss. July brought the leak, a Vanity Fair profile on the Hales. Pitched as Redemption Dynasty. The writer, a sharp-eyed queer journalist named Jordan, charmed her way in, interviews laced with empathy, but angles honed predatory. Victor's arc is gold, she cooed over coffee. The burn check? Cinematic. We greenlit it. Naive. Then the draft landed, headlines screaming from closet to cataclysm, the Hale heir's $38 million secret. Twists I'd shared in confidence, Ethan's stalking. My therapy post-breakup, splashed lurid. Dad painted as tragic figurehead. Me the wounded prince, Alex a footnote trophy. Fury ignited. This isn't our story, Alex snarled. Pacing our new Bushwick loft, his studio merged with my bookshelves. A life woven. It's clickbait porn. Dad called emergency summit at the brownstone. Scotch decanted like war paint. Sue the bastards. No, I countered. Pulse racing. Fight fire with fire. We take control. The counterpunch, Our own docuseries pitch to PBS, Ashes and Allies. Raw footage of foundation work. Dad's unfiltered journey. Harlan's tapes digitized. Jordan's piece dropped to middling buzz, ours greenlit within weeks. Cameras rolling by August. Filming cracked us open. Dad on camera. Voice gravel. I burned that check because it symbolized everything I denied. Love. So. My son taught me to rebuild from ash. Tears tracked his cheeks. Unscripted, the crew hushed. My turn gutted deeper, solo confessional in the lake house den. Harlan's photo propped like sentinel. Coming out wasn't the hard part. It was forgiving myself for needing approval. Ethan. He was a mirror to that hunger. Alex? He's the leap. Alex pulled me close after. Brave as hell. Hail. But bravery invites backlash. Protests erupted, Pittsburgh mill workers picketing Hail HQ. Signs scrawled queers ruining legacy. Online trolls swarmed. Death threats to Dad. Doxing my foundation email. One night, posted. Alex found me curled on the loft floor. Laptop glowing with venom. Faggot air burning family fortune. Traitor. He shut it. Drawing me up. Don't let them in. Too late, I whispered. Feels like Elias. Haunting. We fought them. The first real fracture since Asheville. You're retreating, he accused. Voice rising over the A.C. hum. Hiding in work. Like your dad. And you're blind. I shot back. This isn't just words, it's our lives on blast. He stormed to the studio. Door slamming. I paced. Harlan's letter burning in my pocket. Hates loud. Loves louder. Choose your volume. Dawn brought apology, coffee and croissants. His arms around me from behind. Scared I'll bolt if it gets uglier. Won't, I vowed. We're Steel. The docuseries premiered at Tribeca. A sold-out house electric. Standing ovation thundered. Dad gripped my hand. Alex is on my other side. Post-screening Q&A. A heckler rose. What about the workers? Your legacy kills jobs. Dad leaned to the mic. Unflinching. Fair point. That's why the foundation's pivoting green steel grants for the belt. Harlan believed in building up, not tearing down. The room shifted. Murmurs to nods. Redemption. Earned drop by drop. Fall deepened. Wedding 6 weeks out. We escaped to Provincetown for a pre-honeymoon, Cape Cod's queer haven. Dunes whispering secrets. Bike rides to beaches. Seafood shacks with lobster rolls dripping butter. Nights in a B&B with clawfoot tubs. One evening. Sunset painting the bay crimson. Alex dropped to one knee on the sand, mirroring my proposal. Ring matching mine. Double leap, he grinned. Slipping it on. Forever, I breathed. Back home. The final push, vows workshopped over wine. Playlists curated. Dad gifted us Harlan's Chevy. Keys jingling. Drive it far. Live loud. But betrayal's shadow loomed one last time. Eve of the rehearsal. Ethan breached the perimeter, slipping past security at the foundation gala. A black tie fundraiser for the youth centers. He cornered me in the coat check. Breath whiskey sour. Saw the film. You're a star now. But remember, I knew you first. Leave, I hissed. Heart hammering. It's over. Not till you hear this. He thrust an envelope. Yo. Harlan's real codicil. Lawyer confirmed. The 50 mil is yours. Sign with me, partner up. Expose the Hales. We could rule. Delusion dripped from him. Eyes fever bright. But the envelope? Genuine seal. Notary stamp. Security dragged him out. But the seed wormed. Was there more? A hidden fortune? Harlan's final fuck you to Elias? I confessed to Dad at dawn. Envelope on the kitchen island like a grenade. He scanned it. Face draining. Son of a bitch. Harlan mentioned contingencies, if Vic rejects. To kin who carries the flame. But this? Forged signature page. Ethan's scam. Relief flooded. But the scare lingered. He won't stop. Dad's hand on mine. Said he. Then we ended. Together. The confrontation. We met Ethan at a neutral diner in Midtown. Dawn lights slanting through blinds. Cops waited outside. Per Dad's call. It's fraud, Dad said. Sliding the envelope back. And harassment. Charges pending. Ethan crumpled. Tears streaking. I just wanted you back. The life we could have had. You never had me, I said. Voice even. That was illusion. He nodded. Broken. As cuffs clicked. Later. Arraigned on forgery. But the real win? Closure. No more ghosts. Rehearsal dinner glowed after. Family. Friends. Toasts laced with love. Alex's mom raised her glass. To leaps of faith and the men who catch you. Dad's turn. Eyes on us. Harlan burned first, and me. Now you too? You're the fire that lasts. Vows night. Alex and I slipped away to the dock. Stars pricking the ink-black lake. Ready? He asked. Head on my shoulder. More than. Harlan's song hummed faint from the house. Thunder Road calling. The ceremony dawned crisp. September's sun gilding the tents. 100 souls gathered, foundation kids in bow ties. Alex's kin in Stetsons. Dad dapper in tweed. I walked the aisle solo. Mom's letter in pocket, Alex waited. Eyes like home. Officiant, a drag queen elder named Ruby, boomed. Today, we celebrate not just love, but legacy reborn. Our vows, my poetry from the heart. You saw my ashes, chose my flame. Drawl warm, in your story, I found mine. Till every road's end. Rings exchanged. Kish ceiling, cheers erupted. Confetti swirling like snow. Reception spilled into twilight, barn dance to Donna Summer. Cake three-tiered with rainbow frosting. Dad pulled me aside mid-waltz. Arm heavy. Your mother. She's dancing too. I nodded. Throat full. She is. Honeymoon whisked us to Italy, Harlan's hinted romance. Amalfi cliffs dropping to azure. Villas with lemon groves. Pasta handmade. Nights on terraces where stars felt touchable. We talked futures. Adoption papers started. A loft expansion for the nursery. Back stateside. Life layered richer. Foundation expanded, centers from Detroit to Denver. Dad chairing the board. Alex's photography book launched, Flames Unburned. Forward by me. One December Eve. 2 years on. We sat the loft fire, adopted son. Little Theo, for Harlan's love. Toddling between us with a toy truck. Dad arrived. Bearing Pyragus. Scooping the boy up. Uncle Vic's got stories. Theo Vic, hazel eyes, but brighter. As snow feathered the windows, Alex leaned in. Bigger than money? I kissed him slow. Infinite. In that American tapestry, struggles stitched to triumphs, we carried the inheritance. Love. Eternal. Years folded like well-worn pages. The Hale legacy evolving from scandal's embers to a beacon etched in progress. By Theo's 5th birthday, a riotous affair in the brownstone garden. With face paint and a bounce house that nearly bankrupted the caterer, the foundation had touched 1,000 lives, shelters rebuilt, scholarships seeded, a national hotline humming 24/7. At 74, had mellowed into grandfatherhood with gruff tenderness, trading boardroom battles for bedtime tales of Uncle Harlan's wild rides. You tell it better than me, I tease. Watching him animate a story of cross-country hitchhikes. Theo wide-eyed on his knee. Practice, he'd grunt. But his eyes twinkled, the same spark that had flickered in those faded Polaroids. Alex's career soared parallel, galleries in LA. Berlin, a TED Talk on capturing queer resilience that racked millions of views. Our loft expanded to a townhouse in Bed-Stuy. Walls lined with his prints, me half smiling in morning light. Tausa to be fit glutting Zybon. Dad mid-laugh at a pride float. In stories like ours, courts its quiet storms. Theo's question started innocent, at 3. Pointing to a photo of 2 men kissing in one of Alex's books. Daddies like us? We nod. Simple, exactly like us. By 5. Deeper, why did Grandpa burn the money? Over pancakes? Syrup sticky? I'd spin it soft, he burned the wrong kind. Kept the right kind instead. The kind that makes families. Dad overheard once. Lingering in the doorway. Smart kid. Smarter than his old man. Ethan faded to footnote, a 5-year sentence for fraud. Paroled early for good behavior. Last sighted in Seattle. Clean and anonymous. No contact. Per the restraining order. But his shadow taught vigilance. Therapy monthly? For me and Alex. Unpacking the scars. The real tempest brewed in Dad's health. Spring of Theo's kindergarten year. A routine checkup unearthed it. Pancreatic? Stage 3. Aggressive, the oncologist said. Charts glowing sterile under fluorescence. But treatable. Trials, 6 months strong. Maybe more. Dad took it stoic. Like a merger gone south. Beat cancer once with your mom. I'll do it again. We rallied, Alex documenting the journey in private journals. Sketches of Dad's hand veined like rivers, me helming a foundation drive for queer cancer care. Raising millions overnight. Theo grasped little, Grandpa's tummy hurts, but drew cards daily. Crayons blazing heroic. Summers returned to the lake house. Now a sanctuary upgraded, solar panels, Harlan's green legacy. A dockside swing where Dad taught Theo to fish. Line casting lazy arcs. Evenings. We'd grill perch. Fireflies winking as stories unfolded, Harlan's full arc. Unvarnished, the loves lost to AIDS. The activism that landed him in jail. The fortune funneled not for glory, but grit. One dusk. As bass sizzling, Dad pulled me aside. Voice low. If I don't make it, you will. He waved it off. Listen. The real inheritance? It's you. The family we forged. Tell Theo. His grandpa loved fierce. Tears stung. I hugged him awkward. Bones fragile under shirt. He knows. Chemo hit hard, hair tufting gray stubble. Energy ebbing to naps on the brownstone couch. Theo curled beside like a shield. Alex captured it gentle, half-body portraits echoing my own prompt. Dad's face a map of lines deepened. Eyes still piercing. A quiet defiance in the set of his jaw. Tears unspoken but gleaming. The docuseries spawned a sequel, Embers Enduring, premiering amid Dad's treatments. Critics hailed it humanity distilled. Viewers flooded lines. Your story gave me courage to come out at 60. But the climax crested in autumn. Leaves aflame as Dad's scans darkened. Hospice talk surfaced. The lake house prepped as haven. No hospital, he insisted. Want the water? We gathered, Theo with storybooks. Alex with camera paused. Me with Harlan's cassette looping soft. Dad rallied for moments. A final drive in the Chevy? Windows down. Wind whipping as we traced Harlan's old routes. Poconos to Pittsburgh. Mills looming ghosts. Regrets? Best. Hand on the gearshift. He smiled. Faith. None worth keeping. You. 0. Back home. The end unfurled gentle. Theo sang hymn lullaby, twinkle. Twinkle. Grandpa star, as morphine eased the pain. One night. Stars sharp overhead. Dad woke lucid, beckoning me close. So, tell Alex. Good man. Always was. His hand went slack at dawn. Breath sighing out like a secret released. We buried him by the lake. Beside Mom's plot, simple stone, Victor Hale, builder of bridges. The funeral swelled unexpected, mill workers in flannel. Foundation families in solidarity sashes. Queer elders who'd known Harlan. Eulogies wove, Dad's daughter-in-law, Alex. Beaming. Grandsons piping we love you. My words raw. He burned the money, but kept the heart. That's the fortune we inherit. Grief carved deep, but human, Theo's confusion melting to hugs. Alex's sketches a therapy of lines. We leaned on the foundation, a memorial fund in Dad's name. Grants for elder care. Winter broke to renewal. Theo's school play, him as a brave knight. Saving a dragon, it's okay to be different. Drulas. Healing. Alex and I renewed vows quiet. On the dock, through ashes. To embers. By spring, the true legacy bloomed. Harlan's contingency surfaced legit, not Ethan's forgery. But a trust, $20 million? Earmarked for us. Unlocked on Dad's passing. We didn't burn it, channeled every cent. Youth centers doubled. A Hale Riley scholarship for artsy queer kids. Theo. 6. Grasped it first. Grandpa's money makes helpers? Exactly, I said, ruffling his curls. Like his stories. We porched it. Alex's head on my shoulder. Theo conked out inside. Bigger than we dreamed, he'd murmur. Infinite, I'd echo. Harlan's fire warm in our veins. America's sprawl, from steel scars to skyline hopes, held us. A gay family's testament, love not just survives, but illuminates. In betrayals burned and affections forged, we found the real wealth, each other. Unyielding, eternal.